Hi, this is Mary Ditch with the Homa Times, and I'm here with Dr. Jay Clune from Nicholls State University. Dr. Clune has agreed to come on and talk to us a little bit about Nicholls and what we can look forward to this fall as students kind of try to get back into their routines and come back onto campus. I know everyone, fall semester is always, seems like the most electric one. Spring is good, summer is good, but there's just something about that crisp air and coming back to school for that first time. So many first time freshmen on campus. I know we've got a lot of people looking forward to it.
Oh yeah, more than ever, I think, Mary, because they've been away so long. Tremendous excitement, both from those returning and those who've been cooped up with their parents for the last few months of high school. I think the parents might be more excited than the kids.
I know they're probably so ready to send them off back into the world. Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to kind of take a quick step back and kind of just revisit what happened. I'm thinking it was in March whenever our state kind of said, whoa, okay, we've got to back up a few steps. So when Nicholls found out, okay, we've got to stop having students on campus, how did what transpired and what happened? How did y'all cope when the orders first came down that, we've got to take that step back?
Yeah, you probably remember, Mary, it happened so fast. I was telling the guys I was on my way to a Southland tournament in Katy, Texas. And during that trip up there, not only was the conference championship canceled, but so was the NCAA tournament, the NBA season, everything came at once. I returned home and I was looking the other day on March 11th, we were communicating about what we should do. And that quickly turned into, we need to go remote on March 16th. That was a Monday. That was originally our sort of dry run, our test of whether we could go virtual fast. And that became a permanent state after that.
So when you guys were remote and learning online, I mean, the same thing happened at every school, every level across the board. It was just like, here you go, best of luck. Were there any major lessons that you guys learned right away? What worked, what didn't, particularly for Nicholls and in that university setting?
Yeah, there were some surprises. I had worked at a previous institution that had a very big online presence. So we hired a consultant from that university to come over, and we decided right away we were going to get better through this. We weren't going to just get by, and that meant we knew we had to quickly get a lot of faculty up to speed on online pedagogy, which is very different than teaching face-to-face. So a lot of people immediately went to Zoom, as they did across the country, but we already had some faculty who had done Nicholls online, and they were very effective in that environment, and they quickly mentored others to be more effective. The one thing that surprised us out of this was we thought Zoom was kind of a crutch we had to lean on to get through this, and it was not the best pedagogy for online. And by itself, it's not, but what we found is a lot of students like the supplemental Zoom lecture discussion where they could go back and replay it and get it down. So as we come back to campus, we're probably going to supplement that with some some Zoom recorded lectures, recorded discussions, and we're also going to what we call a high flex model. That means we have spent this summer preparing to have a workshop, which is going on right now, so that every faculty member is trained in high flex teaching. That means that faculty member may have a certain percentage of students in the classroom, another percentage may be at home learning online, others may be quarantined or ill, and they're all either being streamed the lectures or getting recorded lectures, and assignments are sent to them, and they're sending them in through the online platform we call Moodle. So we're thinking of this as a high flex semester, that we need to be as flexible as we can be.
And I think that kind of brings into, we've got to be prepared, not just for, the governor perhaps, or someone to say, okay, we're shutting down again, but what happens if? We're seeing right now in the Houma-Thibodeau area that little, spike in cases where, okay, I might have been exposed. So in order to just be on the safe side, I'm going to stay home for 14 days. So in the fall semester, I mean, we can assume that we're going to see a little bit more of that, and hopefully people will be, willing to say, okay, look, I've got to lock down. I've got to make sure, keep my friends and my professors safe. So I'm guessing we'll be able to the teachers and students will be able to, and we're calling it a high flex model. So they'll be able to, you know, what I guess email in and say, I've been exposed, I have to lock down. And still, I know you used to have to like have an excused absence. That kind of our new version of, you know, taking a few days, few sick days.
Yeah, so the idea is that when faculty write their syllabi, they are already very flexible in their excuse policies, their attendance policies, so that no student ever comes to class sick. And a student will only come to class sick if they think they're either going to be deducted for being absent and or miss class information or miss an exam. All of that can be done through streamed videos, through assignments, and through recorded videos. So there's no reason for a sick student to come to class. And we feel if we do that, then we're going to keep everyone well, or the majority of people well. And those who are not well, we are right now building out isolation space in one of our dormitories that had been closed. We're opening that up again as isolation space.
I guess that kind of leads me to my next question. How are you anticipating doing on-campus housing this year? I know you typically, you know, have a roommate, and the rooms typically aren't terribly large, but how are we going to handle, you know, just our living situation, period, on campus?
Yeah, that's a good question. Mary, we tried to get way out ahead of this thing as we did the virus in general, and we've been working on housing for this semester, really since we left in March of the spring semester. We knew we had challenges. We made a couple attempts to look for housing off campus. That did not work so well. But what we did do is we brought back North and South Babington, which will add about 68 rooms. Those will be single occupancy for students who are at risk to begin with. When they identify as at risk, they go into North Babington and they have a single room. Those who might get the virus and need to be quarantined will go into South Babington. We had an industry leader step forward and help us with a very significant donation to do North Babington. We're hoping, and we're talking to other industry partners right now in hopes of getting help with South Babington. But right now we have about 1,438 students, exactly 1,438 students who have applied to live on campus. That is well above the average. We did everything such as waiving the freshman living requirement and sending out offers to athletes and others who wanted to live off campus. And I think because of the uncertainty of the virus and the uncertainty of what's going on in the world right now, we have a lot more students wanting to live on campus. So right now we have 598 single occupancy spaces, so almost 600. We have about 380 double occupancy spaces. Then we have 400 apartments and then the accommodations I described to you in North and South Babington. You know, with people, I don't know if everybody understands, we run a city. We have housing, we have food services, we have post office, we have campus police, we have all of these things that need to work together. And the single most important thing, or one of the most important things in the college experience, is living on campus. So we are completely filled. You know, we would like those 380 double occupancies to be single occupancies, but we have maxed out our housing on campus.
Mm-hmm. And you were speaking, you touched ever so briefly about isolation. So if a student that lives on campus would say, oh dear, you know, I went, you know, my roommate was out of town, but I was exposed. My boyfriend has it or whatever. How will you be able to separate those two students and keep them both as safe as possible?
Absolutely. So in South Babington, we have about 32 to 34 rooms. We recognize that if someone is isolating, they need to be in a single room. So we would make those available, which means, you know, that's another thing that complicates single occupancy. We have to hold those rooms open for students we need to quarantine and get out of their current space if they can't go home or they have no other option. So, you know, we have a full campus inventory to begin with, and then we need to hold an entire dormitory that we're renovating out for quarantine. So it's a very complicated situation we're working through, but it means more cleaning of common areas, more cleaning of restrooms that are shared between students, particularly in a student situation we may have a double occupancy in a room and 4 to a suite. We need to keep that bathroom clean. There's just so many things to think about, but our folks have been wonderful. They have been scrubbing down this campus. You probably know, Mary, the Manning Passett Academy had to pull out. The offensive defensive lineman camp had to pull out. Other camps pulled out. So we've spent the summer deep cleaning dorm rooms and student residences and apartments.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So how will classes change? Specifically, I know when I was a student at Nicholls, we had some larger, my biology class was in an auditorium and we probably had 70 to 100 kids that were in there. I mean, now there was plenty of room for us to spread out, but you sat by your friends. How are you going to handle some of these larger classes if in a phase or 1-2 situation, we can only have 20 people, including the instructor, in the classroom? Are there more classes being offered? How is that working out?
One of the reasons HighFlex is so important is the requirement is 50% of the occupancy of a room, but everyone must be at a 6-foot distance. So you don't get 50% of the occupancy in that room. A room that might have held 50, you think in the beginning, hey, I'm gonna get 25 in there. You might get 12 because of the 6-foot distancing in all directions. So one thing was clear. We knew the cotillion ballroom was a big space where we could spread students out. So we booked that for the entire semester. That's reserved.
Cool.
During the day. We're not having any other events in that space. Then we started looking around us, and we had a gymnasium. You probably remember Shaver Gymnasium. They called it the hot gym. Students cut through it. I took karate in there. That was a long time ago. But we have, thanks to some very generous donors, and we'll release those soon, we were able to air condition that space, paint it from floor to ceiling, take out all the old bleachers. And that space right now can accommodate about 170 students, spaced at a 6-foot interval. So that allows us to take that lecture class out of an auditorium where people might be squeezed together and spread them out in Shaver Gymnasium.
How do you anticipate students physically attending class? Do you think you'll have a mask requirement? Right now, I know a lot of, elementary, high school students, anyone over 3rd grade is kind of the talk that's going to have to physically wear a face covering. How do you feel Nicholls is going to adopt that?
Yeah, originally we were one of the leaders that pushed for let's wear face coverings inside all buildings. Let's wear face coverings until student can get to their space in a class, and then take that mask off where they can breathe and participate in class. Because of the recent surge, that leeway has been taken away. Now students in university classrooms need to wear a mask everywhere on campus, except when they're in their dorm rooms, or in the case of faculty, when they're in their offices or staff as well. So the flexibility we had about allowing people to walk across campus without masks, the ability we had to allow students to take off their mask when they got to their place in class, that has gone away with this most recent surge. The restrictions are much tighter.
Do you feel if we would get into, say, September, October, Louisiana would be in phase 3, towards the end of phase 3, that perhaps y'all would consider allowing students, once they're in their 6-foot, distance space, to remove the mask for learning?
Absolutely. Mary, what we're most concerned about is not going to 3. We're concerned about going back to 1 right now.
Right.
I encourage all colonels out there to wear their masks, social distance, quarantine as necessary, practice good hygiene, because if you look at the last 3 weeks, it's clear we're moving towards phase 1, not phase 3. And we had hoped to be at phase 3 long before we opened our dormitories August 7th. And here we are with tighter restrictions in phase 2.
I know. We've noticed our caseload recently within phase 2 has just doubled. We're in the 8,000, almost 9,000 cases a week. not exactly where you dreamed we'd be at the end of phase two.
No.
I know we definitely share your concern and the sentiments about wearing masks. So kind of moving into this fall feeling as well, I know the big question on everyone's plate, fall sports. I know we have our wonderful new athletic director coming on board, and I know you guys, I mean, we had a great season last year. How are we feeling about athletics, particularly football?
You know, this was going to be such a big season for us. We're traveling to LSU and Tiger Stadium on October
October
3rd,
3rd.
and we're so excited about this season. But we've been given reason to pause with concern. You probably saw that the Ivy League postponed all fall competitions. Those teams can still practice, but they're not playing any football games in the fall semester. And what we saw with the virus and the shift to remote learning was that the Ivy League was kind of on the front end of that. We hope they're not in this case. We hope we can get people to start practicing social distancing and wearing masks and turn this tide so we can have a season. But we're worried about football. We're worried about volleyball. We're worried about soccer and other fall sports right now, cross country. Because we're going in the wrong direction. We don't want the conference to tell us we have to shift back to the spring semester and only play conference games like the Ivy League is experiencing right now. You know, we want to play a full schedule in the fall. We want to go to LSU. We want to go to the away games. We want to host games and playoff games here. But we need help. We really need people to start taking this seriously.
Now, I know this has just kind of been floated around as a rumor, but how do you feel about the students playing football to an empty stadium?
You know, certainly it would be odd. It might be an advantage in going to, it might be an advantage going to LSU with an empty stadium.
Well,
That could be an advantage. But, you know, Mary, what has always gotten me is I can figure out the people in the stands. You space them and you let in your so many season ticket holders. The thing that concerns me is we got to isolate our athletes and get testing and tracing so we can keep them healthy enough to play those games. Because we can figure out the stands, but we got to figure out is how do we keep a team healthy enough so they don't have to go into quarantine and their competition from the previous week doesn't have to go into quarantine.
right. That's a whole nother issue when you think about having welcoming a whole nother team of athletes from another state where their numbers, their rules, because every state's doing it just a little bit differently. So once you're welcoming someone in,
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a welcome, but what are we going to end up with?
Yeah, well, you look at Texas right now, half of our league comes from Texas, and they're just
Right.
having a terrible time.
They're struggling for sure. Well, sir, that's everything I have for you this afternoon. Was there anything else you wanted to share with our listeners and our viewers this evening?
No, I just want to thank a lot of your listeners and viewers have stepped up to help the university in this difficult time. We've experienced a tremendous amount of generosity to our students and to the institution that have allowed us to do things that we have not been able to do for decades. In the case of Shaver Gym, it's been probably 70 years without air conditioning. So we've been able to do some remarkable things, and the campus is beautiful. We're excited about the fall semester, and students are ready to get back.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and visiting with us.
Thank you, Mary.